Dah start record. Hello, today we are going to present project 2. We are from group 10. So I'm Azrul Amin. This is Iqbal and Yasir. Also we have Faris Iqbal. Okay, let's go to jump to introduction. Boleh zoom lagi tak, Abel? Kau mute tu. Yeah. Okay, so first the introduction is our purpose is of the study is to understand how our daily habits and physical health affect our performance by examining the relationship between waking up early, BMI, obesity risk level, and productivity score. So we conduct by using four analysis method, which is first hypothesis testing, second is correlation. Third is regression. And lastly is goodness of fit test. Next is data set.
Alright, so for the data set, we have collect some values that can be referenced for our topic. One of its instance is BMI, where we check for body mass index and it is quantitative and it shows the indicator of body fat and overall health status. We choose this because provide a way access to assess whether an individual's body may influence their physical fitness and energy levels. Other than that, we also focus on the obesity risk in order to find if someone who have higher BMI tend to have risk or low productivity levels. And then early waker, person who wakes early, and then productivity score, which is quantitative value, which we measures an individual's level of performance or output. So this is one of the indicator of how we can influence variables based on the level of performance for an individual. Then data preprocessing, anyone?
Paris, you can present now.
Let.
Okay, okay.
So this is our data pre-processing. We have four methods. The first one is handling missing values. So any missing values we identify and we handle them. Next we use data cleaning. This one is just to ensure consistency in formats and units for all variable. And then number three, we have outlier detection. So any outlier that in our data, we either adjust them or remove them. And lastly, data validation and the dataset was reviewed to ensure that all values fall in the reasonable range.
The possible outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so our possible outcomes for first, we have our hypothesis testing, which is just two samples. So the possible outcomes would be differences in an individual waking up early versus a person who doesn't wake up early, and their productivity score measurement. And then for our correlation analysis, we have the average awakening time and their productivity score as possible outcomes. For the regression analysis, we have if an individual's habit of waking up early can predict their overall productivity score. And finally, for a goodness of fit test, our possible outcomes are there is an unequally distributed result of obesity risk responses for each individual. In data analysis.
Okay, now is for data analysis part. So firstly, hypothesis testing with using two samples. So for the hypothesis, I use 95% of confidence level. So below there are programming variables. I use df, which is means data frame to read the Excel file, and scores is for productivity score, and group is for early weight group. And then lastly is t-test result, which is to generate output the result. So we can see that in the data set, early waker for yes group is 34 responses, and the sample mean is 7.856. Also, the sample variance is 1.417, and the no group is 56 responses with sample mean 6.452, and the sample variance is 2.008. So the objective is this dating is conducted using two data in a data set, which is early waker and productivity score. And the relationship between these two data is being an early worker affects a person's average productivity. So the hypothesis statement is null hypothesis. There is no difference. Productivity score mean of early waker and non-early waker. Alternative, there is difference. Productivity score mean of early waker and non-early waker. So this is result that calculate in the R. So blah. So the conclusion of the hypothesis statement is we rejected the null hypothesis since the t statistic is less than the p value. So based on R also show that alternative hypothesis is true between group no and yes is not equal to 0. So this is list formula that we use. Okay, that's all for hypothesis testing.
Next, we conducted a correlation analysis. So I'll be sharing the results of that now. So we analyzed how early morning routines intersect with a person's daily productivity output. So we evaluated a data set of 90 individuals to see if the time a person wakes up carries a reliable relationship with their self-reported productivity score. So for the productivity score, we measure it on a scale of 1 to 10. And then to standardize our independent variable, which in this case is wakes up early or doesn't wake up early, we established a strict threshold. So anyone waking up before 6:30 a.m., we classified as an early waker. So we gave them a coded value of 1. And anyone waking up after a time of 6:30, we gave them a value of 0. So you have your early wakers as 1 and your not early wakers as 0. And then for all our calculations, we used a benchmark level of significance of 0.05. So for our variables we used in this data set, we had early waker, like I said before, yes or no, so coded to 0 or 1, and our productivity score scaled from 1 to 10. So then for the results, we ran a Pearson correlation to look at the overall direction and strength of this relationship. Our analysis yielded a correlation coefficient R of 0.458. Since this 0.458 value is between 0 and 5, it proves a moderate positive linear relationship, which you can see plotted via our graph. It's a slightly upward trending line, but a definitively upward trending line. This tells us a very straightforward narrative. As a person's morning routine trends towards early waking, their productivity score also tends to increase noticeably. While this correlation alone doesn't immediately state that waking up early causes a higher productivity score, it explicitly establishes a morning alignment as a meaningful factor tied to higher daily output. So then we went ahead to test our causation theory in our regression analysis. So to take a step further, we constructed a simple linear regression model to see if morning habits could actually predict a person's exact score. So our objective was to test our null hypothesis, which claimed that there was no relationship between waking up early and having higher productivity score, against our alternative hypothesis, which said waking up earlier usually results in a higher productivity score. Our software generated a highly accurate least squares regression equation where y equals 6.452 plus 1.404x. So let's just break down that formula. The intercept at 6.452 represents our baseline, which tells us a person who does not wake up early sits as an average of around 6.45 productivity score. However, our slope coefficient is 1.404, which implies that waking up early increases your productivity by at least a factor of 1.404. Now, if we look closely at the regression graph, we can see our line originates at 6.45 and moves cleanly upwards to match our early rising group. Because our final p-value dropped well below our 0.045, we have this we have this statistical green light to officially reject our null hypothesis, which means we can confidently conclude that a positive relationship between early waking schedule and high productivity scores is real and dependable and not just a random hypothesis. Move to conclusion now. And then to wrap it up, the ultimate takeaway from this study is that an individual's morning routine has a measurable impact on their daily performance capacity, contributing to around 1.4% boost on a 10-point scale, which is a highly noticeable habitual change. While there are probably other factors that can affect a person's overall productivity score during the day, it is our regression analysis proves that waking up early is a definite factor that helps increase someone's productivity score. So that's all for me.
And for goodness of fit test, the variables we use in chi-square, our PCT risk category, which is ordinal, and we separate it into high, medium, and low. Our total sample size 90. Category is 3. And in our programming, we observe value that comes from data set and we calculate and we give or get the expected result. So to determine whether the proportions of participants through 3 categories, we equally distributed within the sample size. So the hypothesis statement that we gain is, for null hypothesis, 1/3 the individuals are equally distributed to 3 categories. And for alternative hypothesis, P, which is not 1/3, the individuals are not equally distributed. So based on the calculations, we have found out that since test statistic x squared 13.267 are more than 5.991, which is the critical value and p-value, so we reject the null hypothesis at 0.05 significant level. The data set shows that the obesity risk categories are distributed unequally in total 90 data, which high with 17 response, and medium with 28 response, and low with 45 response. For list of formula, these are 2 formula that we use for expected value and chi-square formula.
So in conclusion, this project we managed to study a total of 90 people lifestyle, and health data. So we found that the daily habits have a strong impact on how well we perform, especially our working habits. People that wake up early usually lean to a higher overall productivity. So our study is important, especially for us students, as we can find ways on how to become active and more productive. We also learn how to input an Excel file, organize column, run statistical tests, and also interpret abstract numbers. Lastly, our findings at the power of waking early. Early waker score more higher productivity score than non-early waker. This is important because even student, even the workers, because we oh ini this is important because we as student need to work a lot. So we need to wake up early to become a more productive person. So this is our appendix, this screenshot of our raw data set. This is our process data set, the data set that we choose. And that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.